Hey everyone, welcome to LearnDax channel. My name is Siddesh, and in the previous video we had seen how a row context works in case of a filter function. Now these two words can be a bit misleading. What is a row context doing in a filter function? Shouldn't it be that the filter context works in filter function? But I have tried to simplify it and separate these two things in my previous video. I will leave the link in the description. You can go check it out. And in the video before that, I had explained how a row context works in case of a SUMX function. In this video, we are going to see what context transition is and what a filter context is in case of a calculate function. Now, in order to do that, again, I am using the same Excel sheet. I'm going to use the same sales table and try and bring this concept home. So without further ado, let's get started and let's dive into the Excel sheet. So again, I have the same sales table. It has the sale ID. Again, in this is the third video in which the arrow size is too big. Again, I'll have to reduce the arrow size. Okay, yeah, now I think it is better. Let's take a try. Let's try this. By the way, thanks for sticking around these little things which happen on the go. But yeah, let's get back to the problem. We wanted to learn about the filter context transition. So there's this quick recap. If I go to this page which I discussed in the row context in case of SUMX function, what is SUMX function doing? It is calculating the sales price row by row, iterating. This is the row context. Again, if I go to this page, which is the page which I used in filter context, row context in case of a filter function, it is going row by row and returning the value when it turns out to be true. But the catch here is in case of a filter function, it has to iterate all the rows and then the table is supplied to the calculation. Whereas calculate does things differently. Now, what is the difference that we're going to see? So in case of a filter function, what it did was, see, there is no iteration row here, right? Because it doesn't use iteration. Calculate is very smart. It uses this context transition. So instead of going row by row, are you quantum laptop? Are you quantum laptop? Are you quantum laptop? It says, leave it. I'm not going to do all of that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'll ask the engine, the model or the data model itself to filter the values which correspond to quantum laptop. And that's it. That's context transition. It is not going to bother about iterating row by row and then getting that table and then doing the calculations, which can be very tiresome. It will simply say, refine this data model such that it only gives me the table corresponding to this particular condition. And once that condition is met, then I'll sum the values. So you see the difference here. In case of row context in filter function, if there are 15 rows, it is going to go row by row and check which row has quantum laptop. Whereas in case of context transition, what calculate function does is, I'm not going to go row by row. I don't have that much time. What I'll do is, I'll simply apply this filter on this data model. And once that filter is applied, I'm just going to source that table and then use those values to do my calculation. So that is one thing that we can learn from context transition. Let me just quickly remove this filter. So there are certain pointers that I've mentioned wherein calculate converts any existing row context into filter context. What is this? Converts any row context into filter context, context transition. What that means is if I say this particular row, okay, what are the values for this row? The sale ID is 1, the sale date is 1st of April, the product is quantum laptop, the unit sold is 10 or 2, or the sales price is 1200. So what essentially it does is I can basically write it as, if I take this cell, I can write it as calculate. Okay, I can write it as calculate sum of sales amount. I'm just writing a pseudocode. Don't worry about. And sale ID. So what it says is converts row context into filter context. So in my first row, what are the values? Sale ID is equal to 1, comma, sale date is equal to 01, 04, 2025. So essentially it is going to take the sale ID, the product, the unit sold, the sales price. You see what's happening here? Whatever values are being fed in this particular first row, they now act as a filter to this particular calculate function. So that's what it means by row context changing to filter context, wherein the values that you see in the first row act as filters, essentially making it like give me the sale ID as 1. Okay, sale ID should be 1. The sale date has to be this. Again, this is because it's already filtered. The product has to be quantum laptop, the unit sold has to be 2, and sales price has to be 1200. Now, you know where the catch is in case of context transition. While this can quickly filter down the data model and give us the immediate output, this can be a little expensive as well. But what if your data model is flawed and you have two values corresponding to, let's say, there is another sale ID and another sales amount because you have duplicate values. So in this case, if I say, so in case you have duplicate values, then calculate function is still going to do context transition. And instead of showing up the unit sold as 2 for this particular date, for this particular product, it is going to show as 4 because as it filters down the data model, using the values in this row to filter the table, giving that sale ID should be 1, sales date should be 1st April, product should be quantum laptop, unit sold should be 2, and sales price should be 1200. Two rows are going to satisfy that condition. So which is why it is essential that when you're using calculate function and when you're going to use context transition to further fasten your calculations, it's very important that your data model is correct and your tables are not having duplicate rows. Otherwise, it will throw up wrong values. So context transition is essentially whatever values are visible in the first row, they act as filters on this table. And whatever filtered table that we get, that is then calculated by the calculate function. That is one way of looking at it. Now, again, let's take a look at these pointers. Calculate converts any row context into filter context, like I mentioned, sale ID 1, 1st April, product quantum laptop, unit sold, sales price, all these will be fed as filters to this table, then give us the values. The second point, the filter sales product is equal to quantum laptop is applied to the model at the engine level. So this is something that we are explicitly mentioning that A, apply this additional filter on top of the filter that you're already seeing from sale ID, sale date, quantum laptop, unit sold, sales price. So it will only return the values corresponding to quantum laptop. In case you don't mention this sales product is equal to quantum laptop and you just calculate sum of sales price, it will still do the very same thing. It will still go each row and apply the filter and then give us the output. But this way we are going to reduce the number of iterations because in case of a filter function, it will go through 15 rows and then give us the output. Whereas this, it will first filter the table and then immediately give us the output. Then the third point is it is optimized and highly performant because no need of row by row iteration. And that is the most important thing that why DAX, people who use DAX would want to leverage the context transition, which will really help them to speed up their calculations. Now, I have tried my best to explain what context transition is. If you have any doubts in this, please leave a feedback in the comments. I will be happy to address those doubts. I am also learning as much as you all are learning about tax. I am also intrigued by how this works. And if you found any value from this video, please share it with your friends. And like I say at the end of every video, thanks for watching and happy learning.